Hey everybody, I'm Tyler.
Matt.
We're with VIAVI Solutions, and in this episode we wanted to take a closer look specifically about the challenges of contamination with MPO.
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that come into play, right? So the kind of first and most obvious is that with a traditional connector, a SAM Charlie or an LC, you have this ceramic split sleeve that's in the adapter, and when you walk up to a panel and you pull that dust cap off, you can see that there's a little tiny hole. It's a 1.25 millimeter hole that the LC connector is going to go into, the ferrule's going to go into. If you look at an MPO on a panel, it is a giant rectangle, right? It is a very big area. So there's just way more access and way more area for contamination to get into the interface. And right, even if you just look at the two things in your hand, you know, the little tiny LC ferrule, which a lot of people get confused, like, is that the fiber? No, that's a ceramic ferrule that holds the fiber. On the MPO, you've got this black rectangular ferrule that holds many fibers. So there's just a lot more surface area here for contamination to get into place, and a lot more access on the bulkhead side for contamination to get in there. The other thing that's going on is that there is one fiber on here. There's a small 1.25 millimeter fiber at the center of that 125 micron fiber in the center of that ferrule. There are 12 or 16 or 24 fibers on that ferrule. So probabilities are power functions. So if we say that there's 90% chance, there's a 10% chance that that fiber is dirty, which means there's a 90% chance that it's clean. Well, if we have 12 of them in a row, you take that 90% chance it's good to the 12th power. That's how you add up the probabilities, and you get something like 30% chance that that all the fibers are clean together. That all those fibers together are clean is way, way more unlikely than this one fiber by itself is clean. And add those things up, and what you get to is that they're contaminated. I mean, we know from personal experience, you go out into an installed base and the connector's been in the panel for a long time. There's a high likelihood it's going to be contaminated. With MPO, it's almost a certainty that that thing's going to be contaminated. What is that? You know, why do we care? It goes back to the inspect before connect model that we have. Debris and contamination on the end face mess up the transmission. It's true for an LC and a SAM Charlie. It's more true for an MPO or an MTP connector, because just like on the fiber on an LC, if there's dirt or debris or contamination in the core, it's going to mess up the transmission. Same on an MTP. If there's dirt or debris outside the core and on the fiber or on the ferrule, it may not get in the light path, but it can stop the two things from coming into physical contact. And we need those fibers to touch each other. We need those two fibers to physically come into contact, and there's no air, there's no daylight. With an MPO, you've got all these fibers in this array, and they're all coming together. And if one of them gets blocked, if one of them is prevented from physically contacting, the neighboring fibers can also be prevented from physically contacting. We know it. Like we have a theory on it, a model on it, and then we've demonstrated it, we've tested it. We know that contamination over here prevents physical contact on several neighboring fibers. So way more likely to be contaminated because there's just more area. Way more probable that 12 things are contaminated. 12 things are much more likely to have one of them contaminated than one. And if the contamination exists, it's going to impact neighboring things. So it's this huge issue. What do you do about it? You inspect it. I mean, you see what's going on. You clean it, right? You absolutely have to have a good cleaning solution, a designed for fiber optic connectivity cleaning solution. Been around for a while. We used to have Kim wipes and IPA, right? And that was our cleaning solutions. Not so hot. Or people used to clean with not designed for optics. And bad cleaning solutions will scratch or damage the end face. So use something that's designed to do the job, and you have to verify it.
Inspect it again.
You have to. I mean, it's what Reagan said: trust but verify. Right? I trust the cleaning tool, but I have to verify that it did its job. Especially with all these fibers, there's just so much going on there that we often, even with very good cleaning solutions, find that a first clean, something gets moved, something gets left behind, and you just have to check and see that it's clean. Once you see it's good, you're safe to connect. That connection is going to be good for the lifetime, for as long as it's plugged together, right? The good news with optics is once you put them together, they stay good until you mess with them.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Matt. Thanks again.
Sure.
For more information, you can reach us at viavisolutions.com/MPO. Thanks a lot.
Find out more at Vicom's website.